Hello once again, Bakugan Brawlers. So a lot of you have been asking me how to play the game. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you how to set up the game, and then I'm going to cut to the first annual invitational tournament to show you a play-by-play of how to play the game in action. But first, let's settle some ground rules, some foundation here. So first things first, how do you win? Both players will have a 40-card deck, and this deck is your life. So whenever your Bakugan deals damage, let's say my Hydrus does 4 damage, my opponent will be flipping cards 1, 2, 3, 4, and that brings him 4 cards closer to death. In order to win, you have to get them down to 0 cards in their deck and deal 1 additional damage. So in other words, you're trying to deal 41 damage to your opponent. Here's how you set up the game. First, you get 3 Bakugan. I'm going to be using a Darkus Hydrus, a Ventus Fangzor, and my Aquos Ultra Garganoid. Now here's the thing, you're allowed 1 Ultra Bakugan on your team. As far as I know, you're not allowed to have anything else, any more Ultras. Just 1. If that changes, I'll leave a comment in the comment section below and pin it, just to make sure you're updated. So be sure to check the comments below. But after you get your 3 Bakugan, you need to have their character cards. Now character cards are different from regular cards because their backs are different, and you can tell because it's gray. Get your character card for each of your Bakugan. There's my Fangzors, here's my Garganoid Ultra, and it'll say Ultra on the card in case you're confused about that, and my Hydrus. So there we go. Now you need to get your Baku cores, and it'll tell you that in the top right corner, these are the Baku cores you're allowed to use for that specific one. In total, you'll have 6 Baku cores. So if you look at Fangzor here, I'm allowed to have a Shield and a Fire Fist, which I just so happen to have. So now you have the first part. Next, you need a 40-card deck of just action cards and everything you need. I sleeved mine up. Give me a second. So quick tips when building your deck. You can only use cards that align with the factions of your Bakugan. So in this case, I can only use Darkus for my Darkus Hydrus, Ventus for my Ventus Fangzor, and, if I can find one, Aquos for my Aquos Ultra Garganoid. You can only have 3 copies of a card in your deck. For example, what I mean by that is I have 3 Turn to Energy cards. I can't have any more Turn to Energy cards. Now let's set up the game. So the first thing you do is you lay down your character cards. 1, 2, 3. Be sure they're face down so that your opponent doesn't know what they are. Then, aligning with the cards, you want to put your Bakugan on top of them. Next, you shuffle your deck. Here's my nice sleeved version. And set it down to the side. After that, you choose the youngest person. I'm going to slide this back a little bit. You either choose the youngest person, or you decide either through rock, paper, scissors, or some other version of choosing who goes first, to set down the hide matrix using your Baku cores. So for example, let's say I'm the youngest. I choose to go first. What I'm going to want to do is, this looks like a very balanced one. I'm going to put this in the center. Then my opponent will choose one of their Baku cores and put it down. Make sure the sides are always touching. That is very important. Then I'll go again. This one is pretty good for my end, so I'm going to bring it closer to me. And then we just go back and forth until the hide matrix is complete. Now here's something you want to pay attention to. When you're rolling your Bakugan, you can't have it this close together. I'm restricted by the size of my camera, so I'm going to show you, and you'll see this in the tournament scene that I'm going to show you. You have to roll your Bakugan at least 2 cards away from the hide matrix. So the closest point is right here. So I'm going to show you 1, and then behind it another 1, and you can't see it, but this is 2 cards away. After that, you draw 5 cards. Then, both of you, this is another point I need to make clear, both of you take your turns at the exact same time. So there is no first turn player, there is just a first turn. So both of you will draw 1 card and begin. Okay, so now I'm going to show you every single kind of card you can have and you can play. This is a character card. You can tell by the back it's very different from the rest of the cards. And by the nomenclature in the bottom, CC stands for character card. You start the game off with this face down on the field. In a character card, you have 4 main points that you need to look at. The faction, which tells you what cards you can have in your deck. The Baku cores that you need to have that go with this card. The B power, which is used during the brawl. And then the damage, which is used during the victory phase. Next, you have an evolution card. Now keep in mind, all of these cards, except for the flip card, can be used anytime except during the damage phase. So in order to use an evolution card, you have to have the corresponding character card, in this case, Aventus Fangzor. You pay the cost to show you that. Let's say I want to use Hyper Fangzor, it costs 2. You would rotate 2 cards and then overlay Hyper Fangzor on top of your character card. Now this is an action card. These are played at any time except during the damage phase. In this case, you would pay 3 to play this card. You would get 300 B power during a brawl, and you are able to use the sacrifice ability, which means you discard a card to return this to your hand. So in other words, I'd be using this card, then I would discard a card and bring it back to my hand. Very simple. Next, we have hero cards. These work similar to enchantments. They stay on the field. So in this case, I would pay 2 and then place it down on my field, which is why its ability is flip cards cost you 1 less to play, because it stays on the field during each of your turns until it's destroyed by your opponent. Next, we have flip cards. These are horizontal cards that can only be played during the damage phase. This is very different from every other card. Let's say, for example, we're taking damage. This is how it would play out. I'm taking 10 damage, let's say. Let's say it's a team attack. I'm taking 10 damage. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I got a flip card. I stop, pause, look at the flip card, and as you can see, it costs 3 to activate, and it stops non-Ventus Bakugan. So if my opponent just used a non-Ventus Bakugan to fight, then I can pay the cost, which is 3, and now all 10 of that damage stops, and I stop right there, and my damage phase is done. So let's cut to the actual tournament fight so that I can better explain how to play the game in action. This is the Bakugan Sneak Peek First Annual Invitational Tournament. Ilinuk versus Simo. Now let's show how they set up the game. After they finish shuffling and cutting each other's decks, they then decide who goes first to set up the hide matrix. Simo states,
Okay, here we go, Justin.
You are younger, so you actually get to start. This is the first time.
So he's giving Ilinuk the ability to choose first of what Baku core he sets down.
Got some bad ones.
Brilliant move.
Alright.
Ethan is digging the hide matrix coming into play.
Building the high matrix. Long enthusiasm.
Yeah,
I love it.
No pressure. Eyes
The
of the world are
championship
on.
on the line. Being filmed by 12 people all at once. Yeah. I want you in the background of every game I play from now on. Yeah. Oh.
It's getting big.
Alright.
All right.
High matrix is placed. Everybody's going to draw their 5.
As you can see, Simo is making sure that his Bakugan are being rolled 2 card lengths away, which is why he's setting up his cards like that.
Cards starting hand. And let's begin the final round.
Yeah.
Alright, big match.
Yeah.
Notice how both of them drew their cards at the same time. That's because each player shares a turn. What Ilinuk is doing right now is the energy phase. In the energy phase, you choose a card from your hand and set it face down in the energy zone. This is used to pay the cost for the cards in the top right corner.
Yeah.
Right?
Opening choice. Wild strategy goes into the first pick. You want to think about what evos you have available.
Both players then choose their first Bakugan to roll. Notice how they both counted down from 3, 2, 1, brawl, and at brawl, they both threw their Bakugan. Now, since both Bakugan have been opened due to a Bakucore, they're going to look at their character cards and compare B power, and then add up the effects on the bottom of the Bakukores.
Oh, he's got two.
He's got two powerful, two Bakukores.
You see that Simo's Bakugan picked up 2 Bakukores. That is legal. So long as a Bakucore sticks to the Bakugan, it gains the Bakucore's effects.
2 Bakukores, double bonus.
Now, both players are revealing their character cards, and they're going to compare the B power on the character cards and add up the effects of the Bakukores. The character cards will now remain face up for the rest of the game.
That is possible. That's the true master right there.
Wow.
True
So
master.
I'm at 900.
900 with 2
I got,
300 Bakucore bonuses.
600 base, and then my Bakucore is plus 600.
Whoa.
So much at 12?
1200.
Yeah.
2 Bakukores is not enough. Does he have a card to help?
They're fine. So I'll take damage.
Okay.
All right. So we're
So I'm
going to
gonna
replace
do,
those Bakukores
anything else?
for the losing
Just how much damage?
Bakugan.
Just 4.
So Illinuk won this brawl. Now he looks at his character card and looks on the right side for how much damage is going to be dealt to Simo. And as Illinuk stated, Simo will take 4 damage. And that means he's going to take 4 cards from the top of his deck and put it into his discard.
4 damage?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, first hit's complete. You re-put those back. Set it up.
Since Simo lost, he now has to put back the Bakukores that were picked up by his Bakugan. He can place them anywhere he wants so long as the sides touch each other.
Okay.
Fun part.
Simo then puts his Bakugan back into sphere form. However, Illinuk keeps his Bakugan open and set to the side. He now cannot use that Bakugan, and he is now one step closer to a team attack, which will be explained later on.
Now, this is the mastery, the true skill. The true skill of the Baku Master. The reroll.
I'm wrong. 3, 2, 1, brawl.
Oh! Deflected back onto it.
So I'm on 450.
Okay. And I'm at 350 currently.
Okay.
Okay, 350 B power to 400 you said?
450.
450, alright. That's close. Do you have any cards to play?
Nothing?
Can't play anything.
Damage
Okay,
rating?
so damage will be 7.
7.
Yep.
Big hit in round 2. Big hit. Let's see if we can get a good stop.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was Pyrus?
Yeah, I mean,
This is what's known as a flip card. You can tell by its horizontal landscape design. Flip cards can only be activated during the damage phase and when they are flipped from the top of the deck. When you get a flip card, you pause, see if you want to pay the cost, and if you do, use the flip card's effect. In this case, Illinuk doesn't have enough energy to spend for the flip card. If he did, in this specific instance, he would be able to stop all the damage. However, each flip card has its own effect.
you don't have the energy for it
3
anyway.
costs.
So 2 more.
Not gonna cut it. 7.
Okay.
Alright, 2 hits, back and forth.
3, 2, 1, brawl.
If both players can't manage to roll onto a Bakucore and open their Bakugan, then both of them simply re-roll the same Bakugan. And no, you are not allowed to change your Bakugan. You have to commit with the one you selected.
It's getting excited. You get nervous.
3,
when you
2,
find
1, brawl.
In this instance, only Simo's Bakugan was able to pop open. That means the brawl phase is skipped, and Simo immediately goes to the victory phase. The victory phase happens just before the damage phase, allowing both players to play action cards in their hand.
Okay, so it's 300. It's +1 frost, so any of your flips are +1 more.
Well, that's a good one to hit. The Frost Strike makes all the flip cards cost more. It's a
I've got
really
nothing
good one to
else,
hit. We have no
so
defenders.
just 5 damage.
1, 2,
0 card.
Okay.
3, 2, 1, crawl. Alright, so these don't matter. I got a base of 4. I did not get my card bonus because I didn't get the Helix. But then my Bakugan is
Plus 4. So 8 damage.
8
Anything else?
Right
right
now.
now.
4 damage.
And I'm also going to use 4 energy for Molten Helix, so I get +2 and
Double?
double strike.
So that's 10, 20.
20.
20 damage.
Wow. 20 damage.
Make sure you
What?
You gotta
Three
spend your
energies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Double strike doubles the damage rating of your Bakugan at 10. That's 20 damage coming in from the
That's
Haos.
all I can do.
That's it. Okay.
What you just saw was an example of Illinuk using the victory phase to play an action card. Any card, except flip cards, can be played at any time except during the damage phase.
So 20.
So he's flipped the flip card that lets him draw and discard if he wants to use it. Strategic choice of whether or not to spend the resources. Stops a non-pirate's attack. Okay, so that
What you just saw was an example of Simo managing to flip a stop flip card. He paid the cost, and now all that damage that was to be dealt to him is now stopped.
was a 4 flip. So it was a good thing he did not use the 1 resource for the previous flip card where he would have taken all that extra damage. Wow. Strategy coming into play. Coming into play. That's true. There is now both sides are ready for a team attack. A team attack is happening this round, one way or another.
Ethan should be commentating. Man, he's on top of it.
Yeah, charge it.
Ready?
A lot of excitement.
3, 2, 1, go. Barely.
Alright. I put this back?
Put it back where it was.
Yes.
So it was like right
It was like there.
Yeah.
That's fine.
As long as you guys agree, it's fine. Oh, a lot of drama. A lot of
3,
drama.
2, 1, crawl.
Oh.
Does it kind of deploy to my lap? Or it's gonna like cut it? Okay.
So, Illinuk's Bakugan opened. However, because it wasn't due to a Baku core, it doesn't count. Therefore, both of them have to re-roll. It only ever counts if it's due to a Baku core. Even if it doesn't pick up a Baku core, it still needs to open because of a Baku core.
Okay.
Off the table.
Off the
How
table.
about you guys? Get a little hot here.
I think. Oh, okay.
Oh, man.
All right.
3, 2, 1, crawl.
All right, we got 2 Bakugan brawling in the arena for the team attack.
Team attack!
Team attack! Team attack! Team attack! Team attack! Team attack!
So we have 750.
I'm at 200 base.
Okay.
200 to 750. We're gonna need a lot of help to not lose this fight.
I can't play anything.
No
Nothing?
cards to play. Okay, the team attack is happening.
Okay, so
What is
it's,
the total?
Now that Simo has won the brawl, and all 3 of his Bakugan are now open, he then goes on to a team attack. A team attack is where you count up every one of your Bakugan's damage and combine them together. And then you count up the damage on the Baku cores that your Bakugan have collected. You only count the damage on the Baku cores and not any other effect.
Does the frost count on the team attack?
It does not.
It does not. Okay,
Only
just
the character that's attacking gets the frost strike.
Just
So
wanna make
any of
sure.
your power damage boosts do.
those two. Yeah, I never had that come up with frost. So I
Yep.
just want to make sure. Okay, so 5, 7 is 12, 3 is 15. So 15.
15 attack coming from an Aquos Bakugan. First
Stop.
card's a flip.
And stops.
Darkness
not-
or Aquos?
Stop with Aquos. Team attack deflected. We're not going down without a fight here.
Simo's team attack was just stopped. Now his team attack is over. After a team attack is over, you replace all the Baku cores that your Bakugan had collected and put each of your Bakugan into sphere form, and then start the process all over again.
Do you want to agree to fix this one so it's not on top?
Okay.
What you just saw was an agreement to fix the hide matrix. If both players agree to fix the hide matrix, then they fix the hide matrix. If both players cannot agree to fix the hide matrix, then the hide matrix has to stay as it is, no matter what it looks like.
Cleaning up the hide matrix here. Redeploying all of the Bakugan core. Again, a lot of strategy. Which ones do you want near you? Which ones do you want in front of your opponent?
And that's about everything I had to show you. Now, I couldn't record the ending of the battle between Illinak and Simo, as you'd probably know from the vlog series I did of the Bakugan Sneak Peek event, because my phone ran out of memory, so that is a bummer. But don't forget that the way to win is to mill your opponent down to 0 cards and then deal 1 additional damage. You do not lose during your draw step if you are drawing, and you can't draw a card. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay beautiful, keep playing. If you have any more questions, leave it in the comment section below. I will try to answer every single one.